Okay, here we go. Right now, soccer to the max. I'm sorry we are a day late, but well, I mean, sometimes it just happens that way. We're a day late, but so we aren't going to go like super deep into decision day like I was planning to do, but we'll still hit some good stuff about MLS decision day as the playoffs are set. Thankfully, they're not happening like right away, so we'll get some time to do like a more kind of preview when we get to that week. But there's some other things to talk about here. We got the USMNT national team squad being named. NWSL playoffs have already started in earnest. We have the big surprise from Fox regarding the UEFA rights for everything and what's happening with that. And of course, some other news involving some former FIFA delegates. And of course, our Manchester United moment is going to wait till the end. And we have some other things to tack on to that too. So let's start because it just pretty much happened. Although, again, we would have wished to have been able to be a little bit right on the button with yesterday, but we missed. But we're still going to talk about it here. And before we do that, of course, got to introduce the man that's always here with me, Mr. Erik Watkins.
I'm always treated to a mixed bag. I keep saying every year, one helps and the other one just drags me down. Like
Yeah, exactly.
clockwork.
That's exactly where I was going to go here with this, Erik, as you're the only one out of us that has teams involved. As FC Dallas were long eliminated a while ago, but we do have to talk about that game a tiny bit because a very important, famous person decided to make a big statement after the game. But so let's start with, I guess, what hits close to home here. You had the hope of one team that when they beat Toronto 3-1 with Ola Kamara getting a penalty and is able to at that point you think possibly win the Golden Boots. Unfortunately for him, he ends up in a tie, and we'll get to that in a little bit with what NYCFC did. But so DC does the job; they do the business, they do what they got to do.
House
Um,
on fire in the first half. They pretty
it,
much took the first 45, locked it down, and all right, we'll see what happens next.
yeah, definitely, they did what they came to do. I mean, and that was the thing with. I'm sitting here. I had actually taken some big notes for all these games here while you were doing your other show with talking about League of Legends. So like you had that set piece goal from Birnbaum. You had Kamara with the penalty, which that was definitely a penalty. I don't think we need to argue with that. And then of course they get the goal later. So it's like Toronto pulls one back at a point that doesn't really matter. DC is going to win. So you have that,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then, of course, you also have what is a for sure thing with Orlando. Going in, they have a really tough game against Montreal, who Montreal wins. They have an opportunity to get into the playoffs. So that is a game that is huge when we're talking about playoff seeding and just who gets in and everything else. And then, you look at that and you go, Sebastian Mendes, sir. Hats off to you with that amazing goal. I wish we could show it. It's one of those that you just catch it off the volley in the air, and then just absolutely skies it with a rainbow shot. The rainbow shot almost over the keeper. That was
The
pretty awesome.
beautiful one-touch chip. Oh, it warmed
Yeah.
my heart so much.
Oh no, and then I had to feel a little bit hard for Daryl DK. Not only does he not make the U.S. men's national team, which we'll talk about later, he had to go through a rough absolutely criminal tackle by Camacho with that 2-footed. Um, and glad that he just did a red card immediately. There was no doubt about that one.
No, when you're coming in again like a 2 foot in the way that kind of slide, I'm thankful that Daryl wasn't
Hey,
terribly
I thought we were gonna
aware,
get
but
like what happened with Liverpool with Keita, where we are
oh
gonna talk
yeah,
about him breaking a leg or something like that. The way he
yeah,
came in.
I was relieved in that sense, but the referee, you just saw, he saw the right thing. He's like, you know what? It's a red. You're done. Another sigh of relief because I figure maybe we still have that shot at a first round home match. We go ahead, we take care of business, we wrap that one up. But
Yeah.
oh,
At least he can get some vengeance at the end there with the brace. So, This
it's true.
it's good. Orlando does officially make it, and they clinch that 6th seed. So Orlando makes it in for you. Unfortunately, due to some events here with Nashville and New York Red Bulls, within the first minute, Fabio scores a goal right in front. Actually, pretty good for him to bring it down the way he did. And then you think you get some relief with Mukhtar with an almost Olympico free kick almost to the side of the goal, getting it in. You draw 1-1 at that point. You're wishing, hoping that Nashville can get that second goal. It just never comes in. Red Bull get the draw at that point, and just enough to eke in that 7th spot, thus eliminating DC United and eliminating Columbus as well, who had gone and done the business.
1 point.
1 point.
One single point. The only time I was actually rooting for Nashville, knowing what could have happened. But I mean, now with this matchup in the first round, it makes my life even easier.
Yeah, Orlando Nashville should be an interesting firecracker of a game. Nashville, of course, the only team, I think, is it MLS history that has gone the entire season without losing a home game. So that is going to be a tough one to deal with. But you know what they say about records? They're
It,
always meant to be broken. So,
exactly. In the postseason, they don't matter.
yeah, we'll definitely see. I mean, it does matter as far as who gets to host the game, right? So,
True.
you only get that one game now to go forward. So we'll definitely talk about actually talking about the actual games and everything when we get to that week. But just again, Nashville locks it up, but they are not able to go any further than what they do, which is third, thanks to that draw. Because in the other game between NYCFC and Philadelphia, a nasty tackle by it's not nowhere near as bad as the Camacho one,
No,
but
no, but
Gideon
still bad.
Salalem catches a Union player bad on the ankle. You can see the ankle kind of tuck in. It looks bad. They have to go back to VAR to review it. He gets a red card. So NYCFC is down to 10 men with about at least like 60 minutes left in the game. That already puts them, makes it difficult. Philadelphia then scores with like almost a walk-in goal not too much later. And you're looking at Philadelphia. Oh, they're going to get this. But who comes up trumps but the man of the hour, the man with the golden boot, who winds up winning the tiebreaker with Kamara thanks to his 8 assists due to Kamara's 5, with a header out of nowhere, just absolutely beating everyone to get that header to put it in and get the point for NYCFC. Also get the point for the Union to put them just above Nashville and give them the second spot right underneath, New England, who actually lost into Miami, but that game doesn't matter at all. So, but still, the Union, lucky for them to only, they probably should have got the 3 points considering that, you're playing against a man down, but they got the point. They still got second. And I guess that's the best they could really hope for at that point, so Jim Curtin doing the job.
Yeah, I mean, you're managing the best you can at that point. Yeah, you're trying with those fine margins, getting advantages against a 10-man team, but when you have this in this decision day hunger, knowing what's up for grabs for everybody, just like with that header, sometimes the ball bounces perfectly. You time your run, there goes the magic result. But in the end, as you said, it was just enough.
Yeah, I mean, talk about magic results. I forgot to mention this when we were talking about Red Bull and Nashville. Red Bull, you know what that was, Eric? That tie that they got, that draw for Nashville against Red Bull, that was their first time they didn't win a game in like I think 7 games, something like that. They went through a miracle stretch to get to the point that they were to be able to make the playoffs. And we talk about what matters sometimes with playoffs is how you coming in. You
Oh
coming
yeah,
in hot, and the way that they were able to change their formation, like after the All Star break and everything, the way that that team's been playing, it's let's see what happens now when you go into that first game against Philly. Could they actually get an upset? You know?
maybe. I mean, you're coming in hot. You don't have any pressure coming in. It's a 7 seed as compared to one of the top teams with the supporters shield. This could be something dangerous.
Yeah, and Atlanta, of course, always for the dramatics. Since he scores first, actually a pretty nice goal from Ziegler Bailey getting a back heel as he's skirting the end, as he's skirting that 18-yard box and is able to just smack it in. But then, of course, Atlanta using that talent that they have, the amazing talent they have. Miles Robinson, who's always somebody you got to watch for when it comes to corners, hitting that header in. And then, of course, who else? Who else? The Venezuelan wonder, Joseph Martinez, pulling an absolute rabbit out of the hat in freaking midair, just being able to slot it into the net like that, just smack. I mean, like that is when you talk about goals of the week, goals of the year, that is one of the ones you need to go back and watch. It's absolutely amazing what Joseph Martinez is able to do on that and gets Atlanta the 2-1 win, securing their spot where they are in fifth. So they're going to go and battle it out in their game against.
I think
Have
it's
the It's
NYCFC.
NYCFC,
Yep.
yeah. So it's NYCFC. So here's the playoffs for the East right now. You have New England's got the bye, of course, and then you have, of course, we mentioned Red Bull in Philadelphia. We have Nashville at home against Orlando, and then NYCFC at home against, in Yankee Stadium against Atlanta. So those are your 3 matchups in that first round. And of course, those will go parallel. I think it's the 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd is when all those matchups. I don't think they've actually done the TV schedule yet. They just have the matchups right now. So we'll
Right.
get the
Because
TV
like
schedule in a little bit, in a few days or so. So moving over to the west side of things, Eric, uh, just for 1 second, got to talk about FC Dallas San Jose. Finishes 1-1. Chris Wondolowski, the ever eternal Chris Wondolowski, at 38 years old, gets the goal, and then he has the big announcement at the end that he is officially retiring from the game of soccer, the game of football. I mean, people are going to probably remember, the miss in the World Cup and all of the other things. But I mean, when you talk about legends of Major League Soccer, when you talk about legends of U.S. soccer, period, it's hard to argue Chris Wondolowski is one of the best strikers in all
one
of.
171 MLS goals.
Yeah.
Let that sink in for just a moment. 171 and finishes one for the road to get to that number as well. It's
Yeah.
like,
I mean, he could have kept playing. He could have kept
mhm,
being a super sub and played
oh
next year, and
yeah.
maybe they make it to the playoffs. You never know.
But
But
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's something like this. He knew this was the right time. He had a fantastic run. Shame it wasn't a little bit more successful on some ends, but hey, kudos, just flat out kudos.
yeah, certainly. I mean, it's that is a testament to someone that you would say, oh man, he never got like these big chances to
Mm-hmm.
go to Europe or whatever. But you know what? He stuck by MLS. He played in and just was an absolute warrior that entire time that he's there in Major League Soccer. And I mean, we're talking about somebody that could, go on and be a coach, go on and do a lot of things. And maybe, you don't, when we're talking about, oh man, best ever U.S. soccer players, maybe you could name a bunch more than him. But when you're talking about Major League Soccer, you got to put him up there in that upper echelon of players.
Easily in that short list.
So we go from that honoring a legend of MLS to looking at this crazy Western Conference, and it all came down to one game to flip a lot of teams here. Real Salt Lake, who had done everything possible to get to this moment of you don't win, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
And they waited to the last possible second. 95th minute. And who else? Kirlek, who has been absolutely amazing for, Real Salt Lake this year, off a bicycle kick just to kind of like leave it in there. And that's it. He knocks it in. And it's crazy. Like at that point, Real Salt Lake was out. That was it. They were done. And then he gets it at the last possible moment.
He decided, oh, no, we're not.
Yeah, no, we're not. And RSL is in. But there is controversy that Peter Ramirez was livid about. A possible handball there in about the 89th minute that, of course, this affects Sporting KC because they could have gone top of the Western Conference with a win here. Of course, that's on them too, right? They had their chances. Yeah. They didn't score. But now the controversy is that it's one of those where he's sliding, right? And so the hand is sort of up, but is it extended? Is he really trying to keep the ball from going in at any point? The thing that Peter Ramirez had a problem with, and I understand, and I think that when you have such a controversial decision, such late in the game, where do you land on the whole? Well, it is up to the referee. Do we always need to have a VAR check? Like, let's say, right, like the NFL, right? When you have a decision like that, you're always kind of going to the – do you feel like you always need to have a VAR check, or should it be at the respect of the referee of saying, well, I didn't think there was a handball there, so why am I checking VAR?
Well, I mean, in some cases like this, for handballs, I would lean towards yes, because you know the rule is the hand in what is considered an unnatural position. And when you see it yourself, as you mentioned the slide, you say, all right, how far when you're sliding along does your hand have to be up to be considered a natural position? So having an extra set of eyes with that VAR official, I don't mind that in that situation. Yes, it's going to take a while. That's easily 2, 3, 4 minutes of conferring and back and forth. But if you at least to make sure, okay, we've had our conference, we've checked this, double checked this, then you make that call. There's still going to be controversy, but the arguments are going to be limited. Whereas if you just leave it in the referee, all on that particular ref's head, it's just going to go insane.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, obviously, get to it. Peter Reese mentions it in the press conference, but the bigger reason why this is a big deal is not only does it affect Sporting KC, obviously going top, but because a draw, I think at that point gets them level with Seattle, but they don't really do anything, right? So, but had they been up 1-0, that changes things.
Right.
Does this deflate Real Salt Lake to the point where they don't get that goal? Or does it encourage them to the point where they get the goal, let's say early in stoppage time, and they go through what like Valencia did, right? Where they had enough time to possibly go get a second one. We don't know, but let's say most likely probably what would have happened is Sporting KC goes on to win if, say, they do happen to get the penalty. But again, a penalty is like sort of like a free throw. It's not a guarantee.
You could easily
So
miss. The penalty could have
exactly.
been saved. And then what? You save a penalty. That's much more inspiration for RSL to go ahead and get the job done.
Right, but also that time that you have to waste doing that penalty and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Who knows what happens at that point? It's a different 5 or even 6, 7, 8 minutes at that point that you have to give.
Absolutely.
So, there's a lot of stuff that can happen there. I get it. Peter Ramirez can be upset, but you're still going to the playoffs at this point. We
Yeah.
also, again, should have been in the position. You had 2 other games that all you had to do was win or get points off of, and you didn't do either one of those. And then you got lucky here. But either way, they're in the playoffs right now. But the big problem is who you have knocked out of the playoffs. And that's the LA Galaxy, who have been knocked out of the playoffs here. Of course, they could have done something to change their fortunes as well if they would have actually gone out and won this game against Minnesota United, but they did not. They go and draw. It takes an own goal from Julian Araujo, a goal from Anu pretty early on as well. And then Chicharito coming back with 2 goals on his end to draw 3-3. They can't do enough to get the win. And pretty much right there, right when the whistle blows, not too long after they found out about the RSL thing, and that means their season ends with no playoffs for the Galaxy. Got to be a pretty big disappointment, right?
Huge disappointment, and especially not just for LA Galaxy, just for the past couple of seasons at LA market in general. All this hype, bringing in Chicharito for Galaxy, and then the immediate success of LAFC, and now it's like at some point you're getting a lot of big moments, but then you have to have that level of consistency, and especially for Galaxy getting back to their old winning, contending ways. Now it's like, okay, you're just getting more and more underwhelming. So it's like, what do
Yeah,
you
and if
do?
you're gonna say underwhelming, that was LAFC. Colorado absolutely whooped them, just absolutely owned them in this game, 5-2, and it could have been more. Honestly, it could have been more. That
Yeah, it was
game
just
was
ugly.
a beating, and this is LAFC with a playoff chance, and they don't look like they're up for it at all. Just Colorado just absolutely took them out of the game. Kept coming with that killer instinct, and credit to them. They go top with all the decisions. So, I mean, credit to the coach Frazier for absolutely doing what he could with that team this year. And I mean, obviously Bruce Arena's going to get coach of the year for the record break and everything. But if you're talking about coach of the year in the West, nobody deserves it more than Mr. Frazier there for what they did with Colorado. They don't have any big stars. They have Cohen Acosta and they have Jonathan Lewis up there and everything. But it's not anything I'm going to be like, oh my God, I'm really watching Colorado for this, right? So
Exactly. I mean, you
it's
have
crazy.
those two, but it's mostly no names. And with what they've been the past couple of seasons to go and do this,
Yeah.
personally, he would get my vote for coach of the year over Bruce Arena. I'll
And
put that out
the
there.
and the major reason why they can be happy with that is because Seattle goes up to Vancouver, and of course, as is the fashion with that rivalry, the whole Cascadia thing, they are not able to get more than a goal on Vancouver. And there were several times where Freddie Montero had to say went off the line. There was this was a proper derby here, proper just a lot going on, so intense, so passionate, so many things happening. Just this was one game to definitely watch, and man, it brought the goods. So Vancouver and Seattle both get through with that draw. Seattle, of course, had the chance to remain top of the West. They weren't able to do it. So this is what the final matchups look like in the West. Of course, Colorado has the bye. So then Seattle is second. They're going to play RSL. Then you have who is it? Sporting KC gets Vancouver. That should be very interesting. Very interesting matchup there. And then Portland, who were in the game against Austin, that didn't matter because they weren't going to go up or down. face Minnesota, which that one should be a good game too because Minnesota has some players that could definitely make it interesting and definitely give an upset to Portland there. So that's your MLS playoffs. What do you think, Eric, before we kick a ball?
I'm telling you, even with Seattle in the West, starting off with the West, I don't know if you're going to get a big Cascadian presence if you're going deeper into those playoffs. And especially with Colorado getting that rest, being able to scout, I think, all right, they know they were a little bit lucky, even though they took care of business themselves to get top of the West. They're putting the pressure on themselves to go ahead and like, all right, now we're going to mean it and we're positioning for ourselves for a run. And in the East, I don't want to say it's New England's world and everybody else is living in it, but I know Bruce Arena in a lot of these situations. I'm hoping Orlando can at least make a decent run, beat Nashville, and then I'm vindicated myself. But at least to come the East, they're going to be very hard to stop.
Yeah, man. I mean, we say that, but that's the thing, though, right? Is you say, oh, well, definitely New England should win, right? They're the number one seed in the East. They are the best team, but that's not always the case, right?
No,
Which we outlined a few weeks ago, you know.
yeah, and I get that, but and again, if it were just about anybody else, I would say, all right, hold your horses. You don't have the experience. You don't have this. I find some faults. But even as we said about how New England got that supporter shield, yeah, one fluke thing could happen. We've seen it all the time. But I think they're less vulnerable to that fluke.
Very possible. We'll see when we get down to it. Of course, New England gets to sit there just like Colorado does and watch the action of that first week before they have to come in and play. So let's move on now to NWSL playoffs. Of course, they're already in the playoffs. They are now, I guess you would go after they have finished this round. They are now in round 2 going on here. So the 4 matchups that you had, or sorry, not 4, the 2 matchups you have between the 4 teams are really 2 big ones, honestly, and 2 that are actually, juxtaposed when you're talking about all the stuff with the scandal and everything with NWSL that we've talked about off the field. Now that we're talking about on the field, it's very interesting. So before we talk about those 2 teams, let's talk about Gotham and Chicago. Officially now, the end of Carly Lloyd's career with the club game as her team, Gotham FC, falls to Chicago Red Stars 1-0 thanks to a Mallory Pugh goal in the 60th minute. Set up wonderfully by Andy Sullivan there or not Andy Sullivan, sorry. Just for her to score. She actually almost scores again like 20 minutes later. But really, there wasn't a lot of chance in this game, to be honest. When you're looking at the other game, there was a ton. But still, Chicago went in and got it done. But the slimmest of margins, but they went and did it. And now they're going on. And they're going to be playing Portland, which is the tougher team to play next Sunday.
I mean, fantastic defensive effort to say the very least.
Yeah, definitely.
Against Gotham, but are they really capable of turning around and doing that again?
Yeah. Against your Shield winners, against they're gonna, Portland's gonna be at home for that game, so difficult one.
Difficult,
sure.
not impossible, but difficult.
An even crazier game between the Washington Spirit and the North Carolina Courage. Now, these are 2 teams that were obviously had a lot of effect with the scandal and everything else. Paul Riley, of course, with North Carolina, but this now makes it 1 game in their last 10 that they've won since that happened. So you can definitely see the negative that is that this whole thing has had an effect on them. Whereas on the opposite end, except for 2 COVID forfeits since Richie Burke was fired, Washington has not lost. And they did that here. They persevered because this game had 54 shots, Eric. 54. The goalkeepers came out trumps every single time, except for the one time North Carolina Courage keeper spills it right in front of goal.
Yeah,
For Ashley Hatch.
Another sort of hand of Claude moment. You feel bad for her. You feel terrible.
I felt so bad for the entire time. Both keepers were making lightning saves, just coming out from everywhere to keep the ball from going in. Trinity Rodman takes a shot. The keeper spills it right in front, and Ashley Hatch is there to just roof it. And that's it in the 114th minute of the second extra time. They're about to go to penalties. Obviously they still got 5 minutes worth of hard work to do. But,
oh, yeah.
Man, heartbreak a little bit there for the Carolina keeper. But awesome for the Spirit to continue their run. And now they're going to play OL Reign on a Sunday as well. So there you go. You've got your 2 matchups. Washington Spirit, OL Reign, and Chicago against Portland. Whoever wins those, of course, goes to Portland again for the championship game. And we already know that game's happening at 9 a.m. on the day that it's happening.
Wait,
so
didn't they? Because I remember we talked about this. They moved it to Louisville.
No, I thought they moved it from Louisville to Portland.
No.
Right? They moved it back to Louisville again?
Yeah, because it was originally in Portland at 9 a.m. Pacific, and then it was like with the stadium in Portland and the time zone and everything. So they kept it at a noon time slot in Louisville.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I couldn't. Yeah. Never mind. It is. You're right. Moves to Louisville.
Mm-hmm. Because it was just amongst everything else going on, the players saying, hey, why the stadium in Portland? Why is that such of an earlier kickoff, especially for keeping it for TV and everything else? And the league said, okay, we're moving it east.
Yep, because it needed to be at 12 on CBS Eastern, 9 a.m. still Pacific, obviously. But, yeah, so it is happening at Louisville's Lynn Family Stadium. You're right. I'm sorry about that. My bad, everyone. But see, I'm glad we have Eric here to correct me, make sure we have this right. But okay, so in Louisville on the 20th of November. But still, we got to get 2 games through on here in this expanded playoffs. But so far, man, one cracker of a game for sure. Let's see if the 4 teams can live up to it again for this next one.
Admittedly, I'm feeling a little bit relieved with that extra time one for OL Reign. Just saying.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's get into another big topic here that we have. The U.S. men's national team squad has been announced for the 2 games against Mexico, obviously at home in Cincinnati, and then going to Kingston to play Jamaica. And we'll get into both of those squads for Mexico and Jamaica as well, along with the U.S. men's national team squad, because 2 big squads that the U.S. have to play, especially with who have been named for Jamaica as well. So let's get into this, Eric. So some interesting decisions here by Greg Berhalter for this U.S. men's national team. So the goalkeepers, what you'd expect, right? Sean Johnson, Zach Steffen, Matt Turner. I still think you can make the case for Ethan Horvath here and not Sean Johnson, but whatever. He's been calling him in. This is where things get interesting here, Eric. Okay, so before this was announced, Sergiño Dest was a late scratch from the Tuesday game for Barcelona, and then it was revealed he had a back injury. So he will not be in this camp, so you already knew that. No Sergiño Dest. Well, who gets called in? Reggie Cannon, who we have not seen since the Gold Cup for the U.S., and he hasn't been playing very much at all for Boa Vista, and then he's also sort of injured as well, which is weird. Mark McKenzie, coming in. He's not played much at Genk. And then Chris Richards, Anthony Robinson, Miles Robinson, DeAndre Yedlin, Walker Zimmerman, guys that we've seen before. Sam Vines comes in for the first time since the Gold Cup as well, which not always the biggest fan of Sam Vines, but you don't really have a lot of you actually, besides Anthony Robinson, you don't have any legit left backs for the U.S. men's national team, honestly. So you have a lot of guys that can play right and left back, but you don't have any legit left backs aside from Anthony Robinson. So that's kind of okay. And then you get the big call up with Joe Scally, finally getting his opportunity. So happy for him. What do you think of the defenders here? And does this make you think that that's a lot of fullbacks? Erik, are we going to play three at the back?
As weird as it sounds, I would hope so, especially if you're really getting that thin at the left. Automatically, this is telling me. Now, of course, you can still spread them out a little bit wide, not a super, super compact three at the back, but I'm looking at least three at the back. I don't know how we're going to do with the wings and drop and sort of a quasi 5 in support, but with some of these, three at the back, we'll get to it, but getting these kind of formations, I can see where he's leaning a little bit. That's where it starts.
I mean, you did see the three at the back of the Nations League, so perhaps that's where he's going back to with this, is saying, okay, well, I have a lot of the players that I want available. I mean, obviously not Dest, but most of the players that I want available. You could say maybe he's getting a little bit cute here. We'll see how this works out, but I wonder if it really does make you think that they're going to do the three at the back here with bringing in so many backs and not so much center backs, because you left out two of your most experienced center backs, and John Brooks, who had to release a statement which pretty much said, hey, look, I did play in the Champions League, but I don't feel like up to snuff. I don't know if that was a decision between both of them or just, Greg Berhalter went and told John Brooks, hey, man, I'm not going to call you in. Just keep getting better and we'll see how you go. He did say, I'm sure he will be back. No Tim Ream either. So he went with Young here. He went with, I don't know what Cameron Carter-Vickers has to do to get a game. He's been playing pretty great at Celtic. But, I mean, hard to argue with almost everybody else that got picked. I mean, these are people that he can rely on. Walker Zimmerman has played great in some games. Miles Robinson has been dependable. Anthony Robinson, of course. So Mark McKenzie's kind of been, he's not getting a lot of playing time. And when you're talking about, you need to be in form, that kind of goes against the contrary when you call in Reggie Cannon and Mark McKenzie. So I don't know, Greg Berhalter, you got to figure it out. You got to be more consistent.
And I mean, especially, you're talking, it was like a Boa Vista, your Genk and stuff like that. So you get somewhat like at those name clubs, but you would at least want your players to be playing in the lineups, getting the minutes at least at some point in time. So,
yeah, I mean, and Reggie Cannon went through a period in the summer where he didn't even want to be at Boa Vista. He wanted to leave. So it's going to be interesting what happens at the January transfer window. Does he get the opportunity to leave? But if he's not playing much, and he was hoping to play a lot more for U.S. men's national team to get seen. So we'll see what happens here. Midfielders are pretty much the ones you would expect. No one is really a big surprise, but that also kind of leads you back to the whole, man, does Greg have his favorites here? Kelvin Acosta, Tyler Adams, Gianluca Busio, good to see him in again. Sebastian Lletget, Yunus Musa, Weston McKennie, Christian Roldan as well. So both Lletget, Roldan called in. Acosta as well is kind of a Greg favorite, but, he kind of does do his thing in MLS, so you can't really complain. Tyler Adams, of course, has to be in here. You have your three, which are being affectionately called MMA right now, McKennie, Adams, and Musa. That's the people's favorite as far as like your starting midfield that people really want to see. We'll see if all three of them get to start against Mexico. I could definitely see him trying to start legit or something like that, thinking that we need experience, but which I hope we don't, because although he scored a goal in that game against Minnesota, I'm still not the biggest legit fan.
No, and we've
So
seen this at times. It's some of those in the midfield, and especially against Mexico. You're going to want to try to control the ball more. You're going to want to have a presence, really push your influence to try to move forward. We've seen it already. Legit sometimes just goes missing. And
yeah,
I because I'm thinking this is screaming initially 3-4-1-2, something of that ilk. I
yeah.
don't want Legit as my fourth midfielder. Give
I
me
don't
the
know.
MMA all day, but no, no.
And I'd really want. I mean, I don't know why Luca Del Torre is not in this. I mean, I think he's doing fine, and I thought he was interesting when he came in.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in the first game that they played in the last cycle. So it's like,
I would have loved to see him in for this
yeah,
window. See what he does against some of the big boys. I mean, if not just getting a run out against Mexico, definitely against Jamaica.
yeah. I didn't get this one either. But the I think bigger head scratcher here for me is Brennan Aronson, Paul Arriola, Jesus, Ricardo Pepi, Christian Pulisic, Tim Weah. You kind of knew all them as soon as Pulisic played even a little bit.
Yep.
You knew he was going to get called in.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Weah, Ricardo Pepi, Brendan Aronson, no surprise. Paul Arriola, of course,
Why?
the biggest of all the Greg favorites. And
Why?
this is coming from a DC United fan saying
Yes.
why, So
I've seen him at DC United. We've seen him when he's come in the past couple windows for the Stars and Stripes. Why? Why?
because he
He's
works
not going to
hard, Eric. Because he works hard. That's why
working
he's there.
hard. You're supposed to work hard. That's the general idea. It's just okay. You're working hard, and then what? Normally, working hard leads to results. We're not getting the results. Another one of those guys that not just goes missing, but sometimes just has total brain farts or easy misses in sitters. It's like, what are you doing? Yeah, it's not quite football 101, but like a football 201 sort of maneuvers you should normally be getting from him. It's a total grab bag. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't, but he'll wind up playing even though he really shouldn't. Of course, big surprise here is Jesus Ferreira is basically the other number 9 because Ricardo Pepi is the only number 9 that he brought here. He's the only actual out and out striker. Now, Jesus Ferreira has scored 8 goals for FC Dallas and 2 in the last couple of games with 2 assists. But still, I mean, and I get it, he does play up front a lot for FC Dallas, but it's different playing up front for FC Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you don't know if he's played for what he played up front against like Trinidad and Tobago when he played for the US. I mean, so that's a big ask to if let's say Ricardo Pepi gets hurt or Ricardo Pepi is just gassed after the Mexico game, so he can't play against Jamaica or whatever. Or let's say like you're not going to play Pulisic, right? Because
Right.
he played against Mexico or whatever. It's like that's a lot to put on in a game where you need to win.
Yep.
Like the Jamaica game is Jesus Ferreira. I mean, I hope he proves me wrong. As an FC Dallas fan, I love Jesus Ferreira. Obviously coming from the pedigree of his dad, and he's a playmaker more than a scorer, just like his dad was. But he can score, and that's fine. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. It's like this is where you need. To me, it's like, what happened to Jordan Pefok? Why is Daryl DK not getting a shot? Like, you don't have that target man, and that bothers me.
For something like this, and especially, and this is another thing that Berhalter's going to try. I know I said the 3-4-1-2. Watch he pulls some sort of more abstract maybe like a super wide 3-4-3, or almost like a spinning
Well, no,
top kind of
he's
three
going
four
to
two
play
one.
that. He's going to play that because he wants to find a way to figure out how to put Pepe, if not Pulisic, Aronson, and probably Areola. I wouldn't be surprised if Pulisic's like a super sub or whatever, doesn't even start. But like he's definitely going to want Aronson, Pepe, and some combination of Pulisic or Areola over here.
Right.
So there's going to be three up front. I don't think he's playing with anything but a three up front.
And this is my point. It's like, how are you going to manage that? Are you going to manage like a more wider three up front in a 3-4-3? Are you going to try some sort of wacky triangle in a 3-4-2-1? You're not giving yourself many options with in these sort of situations.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's possible he could do the 3-4-2-1 as well, but that's where, like, for me, maybe an Aronson and Pulisic work that way, because you see Aronson play as a number 10 for Salzburg, right? You could necessarily put Jesus and Aronson there together as well. But I mean, for me, like, Areola in that spot doesn't work. Like, he needs to
No.
be on the wing where he can run in and all that stuff. So
He's a fantastic number 7, but
yeah,
you got to understand he's a number 7.
right. Don't try to put him somewhere
No,
else or put him
no,
as your
you
like
can't.
false 9 or whatever.
Exactly. You can't
He,
try to squeeze him inside. He always loves making those runs and playing from out, going like that. So
yeah, and I were he did mention the false 9. He did mention Jesus as a false 9. I was like, oh no, let's not do that again. Let's not. It doesn't work that way for the U.S. We don't need to play false 9. We're not Spain. Let's stop playing around with that.
does this
But
man want me to have my eyes roll outside of my head? He's
he,
making it difficult for me not to.
I don't know. But I could definitely see Mexico ruining whatever plan he has, and then we have to go with the whole, let's just throw people at the wall and see what happens again, like he normally does. So, yeah, I just don't have a ton of faith. Look, there's nothing wrong with a lot of these players, and again, as an FC Dallas
No.
fan, I love his Ferreira. We'll just have to see what he winds up doing. Does he get it right against Mexico? But speaking of the Mexico squad, let's look at the Mexico squad really quick here, because they have some fantastic players, so like this is a lot that you have to go against when you're talking about Mexico. And of course, you're looking at Memo Ochoa in goal, so that's already a lot
Problem number
to deal
one.
with.
Problem
Yeah.
number one right there.
Yeah. I mean, like, the only thing that I think the U.S. maybe has a win with is that I feel like, as far as defensively, Mexico still has question marks. Like when you talk about, okay, Jesus Gallardo is going to play on the left.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, you don't really know, right? Because he kind of plays around with your center backs. Like, like the Moreno is going to sort of play, or like you have Jorge Sanchez playing on the right, but is he somebody you can count on? You already know Néstor Araujo's not going to play in this game because he's got the red card. So, does that mean Cesar Montes plays there? How much can you believe in him? Then in the midfield, who's he going to pick out? Right? Is it going to be Sebastian Cordova with Hector Herrera? Is it going to be Carlos Rodriguez, who's been playing great for Rayados, or is it going to be Edson Alvarez, who's been playing great for Ajax? And then of course you got the trio, right? The trio of Tecatito, Chucky, and Raul Jimenez are the U.S. defense going to be able to stop that trio, going forward. That's going to be, oh man, super, super, like, a big matchup to watch. That young defense where you don't call in the experienced guys, right? You're not calling in a Tim Ream, not calling in a John Anthony Brooks against that forward line.
And Tata Martino was just salivating right now.
Yeah,
salivating.
That is going to be one of those where, like, Greg is either going to get it completely wrong or it's going to get dicey there. And then for Jamaica, this is the one that gonna be a fun one to watch when we go to Kingston here, because you got Andre Blake, of course, in goal, and who's been always fantastic for Jamaica or for Philly. You got Kamar Lawrence, probably Alvis Powell, Liam Moore, O'Neal Fisher. You got some decent defenders there for Jamaica. You still got Javon Watson, Bobby Reed there in the middle, but the big decisions here are they got the pick of the litter this time for up front. Leon Bailey and Mikel Antonio, both in the squad for Jamaica this time. And he was not there when you played in the United States, but Mikel Antonio is someone that that's a lot to handle there. And with what West Ham did at the weekend, I mean, like don't play around, US. Antonio could absolutely handle somebody. And nobody's a Virgil van Dijk here. So, I worry about this game when it comes to, again, the defense handling that forward line. And if you're going to put, like, let's say, pair Nicholson up with them, I mean, that's two formidable guys you got to deal with.
Yeah, I can't see. I can see three at the back for both games, especially going with both those dynamic bodying, pushing up from forward lines. There's going to have to be some sort of switch in between matches. Berhalter's got to figure out something out. The question is what? It's not looking pretty.
No, it's certainly not right now. But again, this is, where you say you got to play the games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got to play the games. So, you could say that you should win. You should have that faith that they're going to come in and do the job, but you don't know, right? As far as like probably Tata Martino, like you said, is salivating at the thought of being able to play that young defense against his guys that he knows he should be able to count on.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. With the way Mexico's been flying, could it just be another huge victory there for Mexico to just keep rolling in this World Cup qualifying? I mean, they haven't been rolling per se, but
the fact
they've been getting the 3 points.
Yeah,
so.
they've been getting their results in the fact knowing that even though it's a ways away, the trip to the Azteca is looming. The sooner you can cement first place, or at least put distance, the better. They're thinking about that.
And it will be interesting when you talk about, like, if Mexico have been playing around with, they want to go to different cities like the U.S., would they consider taking it out of Azteca to play somewhere else where, you have much more of a crowd? So,
Maybe.
But interesting there on that front, at least. So I forgot totally to mention this while we were talking about, you know what? We'll just save that for when we talk about the playoffs, because this doesn't really matter right now. Just to save a little bit of time. So really quick, before we get away from national team, at least the senior national teams, the men did make one friendly for December 18th. That's going to be the end of the year. No more games after that for a little bit of a break. They're going to play Bosnia and Herzegovina in Carson as the friendly. Let's see if maybe we call up Wando for that one to give him a courtesy like send off or something.
Oh yeah,
national team. Since it's in California and everything. We'll see what happens there. And of course, the women are going to end their national team season with an interesting twofer here with Australia, and they're not going to play it here. They're going to play it in Australia, Eric. So on Black Friday at 11 o'clock at night on FS2, you can watch US. Well, yeah, I don't know who's watching FS2, but
Look, hey, I'm not knocking FS2. They have come up clutch for me a few times, but it's if you're still awake at 11 o'clock at night on a Black Friday, if you're not exhausted from dealing with family and shopping and this and that, it's gonna
a
be
lot of
a
people
fun
do
match.
their shopping. A lot of people do their shopping online now. So how tiring is that really? But like my point is that for one, if you have access to FS2, because a lot of cable systems have FS2 locked on some premium big ass tier that most people are not going to pay for anymore. So there's that. But the second game at least is on ESPN. But guess what time you're going to be watching that game on Tuesday at 4:05 a.m. You gonna be up at 4:05 a.m. Eric? At 4:05 a.m.
Now, keep in mind my sleep schedule has not been the most normal, what you would call the last year and a half. But
Yeah.
if I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning, no offense, I'm not thinking football of any kind.
Yeah,
If I happen to be awake, I'll maybe watch the first half and finally go to bed. But
no. Of course, they're playing the first game in Sydney, and that's actually when they're playing it. It's at 3 p.m. Local time the next day.
Yep.
On the 27th, so it's 11 p.m. over here in the States. That Black Friday, and then of course Tuesday, the number 30th, they're playing local time over there at 8:05 p.m. in Newcastle, and that's 4:05 a.m. our time that morning. So.
In Newcastle, beautiful stadium, suburb of Sydney, I think slightly farther north.
It's like 100 miles north of Sydney. Yes.
I watch a lot of Australian rugby league and a couple other sports, so I have a general idea.
See, that's why you gotta Eric watches the stuff that a lot of people don't, so that we can have these kind of conversations. Good. So now we're gonna take. I don't want to say a step down. We're going to look at the under 20s. First time we've been able to talk about the under 20 team in a long while because the under 20 and under 17 World Cups were canceled due to COVID. And of course, US men didn't make the Olympics. So this is really the first time we're being able to talk about this. And of course, it's weird because the previous coach of the US men's national team, our US men's under 20 national team, he only coached 2 games before everything came to a halt because of COVID. And it's weird to see that you just knock him off for no reason other than the fact that he hasn't been able to do anything with the teams. So you're bringing in a former FC Dallas coach during the time where Luchi Gonzalez was coach, Mikey Varas. Of course, he obviously has a lot of experience with younger talent with that FC Dallas Academy that is brought in so many great players over the years. So now they're going to be playing in this cup, which starts on Wednesday, called the Revelations Cup, which is being held in Mexico. It's Mexico, the U.S., Brazil, and Colombia, all playing within a week's time. Sorry, and some youngsters from MLS that you may know. Some players from Fulham, but there's not any like major players here. Obviously, it doesn't help that the U.S. men's national team have games going on at the same time. So, Ricardo Pepi could technically play in the Under-20 World Cup in 2023. Could he have been called in here if, say the U.S. men's national team is not playing, the senior team? Maybe. And then there's some other teams that are on that national team that could be playing as well, so that's the thing that's interesting with this is where Berhalter keeps calling in this young squad, and a lot of that team could play here. But really, if we're going to scan really quick, I mean, for Eric, Jacob Green is called in, the defender for DC United. Justin Shea plays for FC Dallas. He's being brought in here. Paxton Aronson, who plays for Philadelphia. Caden Clark and Cade Cowell are both in. They play in MLS. Brian Gutierrez also in here along with Misael Rodriguez. So, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of talent here, but I think it's going to be fun to be able to watch these, which they're going to be on 2DN. So if you have TUDN, which is that Univision all sports channel, if you have that, you can watch the games on there and discover some of our young talent. That I'm going to be interested to see some of the young talent.
Yeah,
That
same here. I'm definitely going to be tuning in. I'm lucky enough to get to UDN, which is perfect for me. So it's something seeing exactly how we have it like coming down the pipeline, and especially for 2023, and then heading towards maybe something for Paris in 24. Hopefully, we finally kind of break that duck. So this is going to be a good first step.
Yeah, certainly. You gave me a great segue there, Eric. Speaking of Paris, a former Frenchman, former famous Frenchman, Michel Platini, and of course Sepp Blatter, being indicted on charges of fraud and was it illegal transactions and a bunch of other things here.
Yeah, this, and if you look into the history, and I'll give a Reader's Digest version, it's a little bit shady because you got a flashback all the way to 2011.
Yeah,
It's kind of a handshake gentleman's agreement saying, hey, Michelle, you did a lot of this consultancy for us, and great. I'm going to be sure to pay you somehow.
right.
And then all of a sudden, 2 million euros magically changes hands out of nowhere. So you
Yep.
kind of a bit of a question mark. Then you go forward 2015, after the whole big scandal of awarding the World Cups, especially to Qatar, more and more investigations go on, and this is tied in because, like, okay, you say, oh, you agreed to pay this at a later date. Oh, you say we didn't have the funds. All of a sudden, where did this come from out of nowhere? They're both denying it, saying everything was on the up and up. But the Swiss courts were like, no, we're going to go ahead and dig into this a bit.
And of course, this is also when we're having the U.S. raids for corruption as well during that time. So
Yeah.
this indirectly, all of this leads to Sepp Blatter winning the previous presidency and then also then resigning like a week later when this happens. And of course, Platini was supposed to be the next FIFA president after Blatter got his fifth term. And then, of course, all of this happens and he doesn't get that. And of course, he wound up getting like a 4-year sentence banning from
Yeah.
FIFA and soccer. He can now technically go back into soccer, but so far that has not really happened. He wanted to be on the executive board of fifth row at one point. Sepp Blatter still has, like, I think, another year or two. And then Blatter's also getting that criminal charge for the giving $1 million to Jack Warner in 2010. So we'll see, but I don't miss the days of all of this corruption charge going on with Blatter and all that stuff.
Not whatsoever. You got to see the results of the racket, but you also see how big of a racket it really was.
But we do have something interesting when it comes to, Europe. And of course, Michel Platini was the head of UEFA for such a long time. UEFA now has a new home, Eric, starting in June 2022. Now, think about this, Eric. Fox quickly went from like having okay, they used to be like the home of club soccer for a lot of things, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, okay, they got the World Cup, but they don't have much else when it comes to soccer. Oh, some US women's national team stuff here, some US women's national team stuff here, whatever. They got, I think it's Bundesliga B or Serie B or something. All of a sudden, and then all of a sudden, bam! Like they decided to go after the Copa America.
Yep.
They still had the Gold Cup, They
Mm-hmm.
had, and then they have, of course, the World Cup, which they were gifted the 2026 version, where they don't have to give a bid for it because of what happened with Russia and everything. So they have that, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Fox outbids everyone to go after the Euros. And not only the Euros, but they get everything UEFA from 2022, which starts the qualifiers for the Nations League, to the Nations League, to the Euros in 2024, the Euros in 2028, and everything else in between. All the World Cup qualifiers, everything else, all the friendlies that are handled by UEFA, they get everything, Eric. And I just wonder where the heck are you going to show all this stuff? And I worry about it with Fox because they don't have a streaming service like ESPN Plus, where, you know what, maybe I'm not going to watch all those games, but the fact that they're all there is nice.
I really think this is going to be that big bolster for FS2 now that it's gaining a wider presence. And while it's not an actual streaming service, I think they're going to use these next couple of years and really transform Fox Sports Go. And another sort of,
they have been saying that they're going to use Tubi more.
Okay, so Tubi would help, but actually, thanks to with my TV, I get Tubi, which is a plus. Yeah. And they also have, and I call this a hidden gem because it's, again, one of those that's not readily available, but they still have Fox Soccer Plus up their sleeve.
Oh, no. I don't want something that I have to pay more money for.
I don't think they're going to have a lot of the premium matches or the big nations or big events on Fox Soccer Plus. I mean, if you're a fan of, say, like San Marino or Gibraltar, one of those, they'll probably throw those on Fox Soccer Plus.
Something like that. But okay, my thing is I want to have a way where I can legitimately watch something on demand and not have to like go scour the internet for it, because that's my problem. Like on ESPN Plus, I can watch whatever the heck I want. After the game's over, it immediately goes back on there. And if I want to watch, a Spain versus Italy or the England game, whoever England's playing, I can watch that. Whoever Portugal is playing, I can watch that. Like, I don't have to go and fish for it, right? Or pretty much if you don't watch stuff live, it's almost impossible to find on the internet later on demand. So, like, the only way is to have somewhere where it's going to be on demand. I'm just not a fan of, like, right now, at least where it stands, right? Fox could change things and they could add all these things to Tubi or whatever.
Yep.
Univision added that Prende TV, which is free, and they added a lot of stuff on there as well. So, like, they could do that. But I'm just saying, right now, as it stands, they don't have that proven track record where I'm going to say, listen, the world is changing. More people watch things on demand now. They don't watch everything live. Everything's watched with, highlights now a lot of times. So I just want to see them make that progress,
And I think the fact that they're getting these big time matches, I think this is going to push them to make that progress. Because honestly, about Tubi and you have like stuff on Tubi, but this is a big push for Tubi itself. Because let's face it, if you don't have like high quality original content, which takes millions of dollars to invest and do it right, what do you have to rely on to put yourself out there as a streaming service? Sports.
Yeah, here we go. A lot of sports now. Obviously, now most of this stuff is taking place in certain years, and you can't count it all the time. So you don't have, like, ESPN has this stuff, right? The when the internationals come to town, like, they can promote the Mexico game that they have, right? But they weekly have stuff as well. That's the problem Fox has right now is, okay, you have all this international stuff, but this is only at certain times of the year. Most of it in the summer, except for the 22 World Cup. And that's it, right? Like, you don't have La Liga, Bundesliga, what is it? The Eredivisie, the other leagues, the championship, the cups, like ESPN has a lot of stuff. And this is also leading to rumors now that ESPN may even go after the Premier League, which is coming up for rights really quick. Right now it's happening. They're having the deals right now. I mean,
this is one thing that I was thinking about myself, because they've confirmed for anybody who loves ESPN Classic, that's gone. Yeah. That's going to be done. If ESPN is making this push and they have the availability, Who's to say they don't do like what Fox did and turn Fox Soccer into FXX, taking
Yeah.
it from sports specific away to other content? Who's to say ESPN doesn't do the reverse? ESPN Classic, and then bring ESPN FC from being strictly digital or what have you to a full blown channel on the cable waves.
I don't know about doing that because they want to get subscribers for ESPN Plus right now. So if you take away stuff from ESPN Plus to make it into a channel,
No, you can, but you're not necessarily taking a whole bunch from ESPN Plus. You still have that with any on demand features or things like that. But if you have ESPN Classic, what are you going to do with sort of that space? You have something
yeah,
going away. You would still want to be that competitive in that sort of a landscape, unless you're going to turn it into an expanded version of the Ocho, which that would only take you but so far.
yeah. I mean, it depends, right? Because it's the same thing with the NBCSN that's going away.
Yeah,
And as
that's
far
going
as we
away. All of that content is going to go to USA and a couple other networks under the
and then
NBC Universal
Peacock
umbrella.
obviously as well. So like that's the thing is, do they, like you said, do they turn that into an ESPN FC channel, right? Or do they just go away with it completely? Like there's a lot of people that are saying that NBCSN is going to cease to exist and they're not going to replace that at all with anything else.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be that's it. There's no NBCSN. It's not going to be replaced, and that's why they didn't go after hockey. That's why there's a lot of talk about are they really going to go after Premier League because Premier League want like what 3 billion or something like that.
Oh
And
no,
yeah,
no.
so I mean, is there a possibility that they have a splits rights package, which I don't know that ESPN would go for that because they want everything on ESPN Plus. So then that's going to be fun whenever that comes because even
Oh yeah,
CBS could go after that because of their streaming
and
service the way it is.
and there's other talks about other leagues and other sports as well. You've
Yeah.
got on the gridiron college football. You've got spring leagues coming up over
Well,
the
I
next
mean,
couple of years.
ESPN owns like almost all of that. So I mean, like then those contracts. I mean, the other than the CBS one, right?
No,
There's no, yeah,
there is that, but again, you also have Fox, who is along with the Big Ten Network, and you have a couple
yeah,
of spring gridiron football leagues coming up over the next couple of years. Fox has already pounced on one. There's a lot of
yeah.
talk about NBC getting in a share of another one. So, a lot of major TV negotiations over the next realistically 4 years all around.
Yeah, but what's interesting for this for Fox is that now they're basically the home for international soccer. We're talking
Mm-hmm.
about like everything outside of the like African and Asian continents because CBS and ESPN have those. But yeah, I mean, they have almost every other major competition at this point. So it's crazy to think. At least on the English side of things, it's gonna be interesting on the Spanish side of things. Does Univision keep that with the Euros like they did this year? Although, you know, when the Euros are going up against other, let's say like Copa America, there's less interest in that
Mm-hmm.
in this country. So
Yeah, and
are
there's
they going to try to
specific.
spread them out a little bit more?
Yeah, and that's going to be another thing because you see in CONMEBOL, they're specifically scheduling Copa America to go head to head with the Euros.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they don't
That
really have an option. They just happen to fall in the same year, so they'd have to
right,
switch them off again.
right.
So, well, I mean, well, they did that now because they don't want any men competitions competing with the women competitions when they have the
Mm-hmm.
World Cup. So, which would be again something that kind of goes against the, becomes a further issue when you have if you do the biennial World Cups with both the women and the men. So, well, again, they got a lot of time to figure that one out. Still lots of talk going on that end, but we'll
Oh
get to
yeah.
that when it comes to it. So the last thing to cover here, Manchester United moment. And man, what an interesting moments to talk about because we're talking about two games, which pretty much define Manchester United as far as this year goes. You have the come from behind win against Atalanta, or not win, draw against Atalanta again, right? They came back from behind to win against Atalanta the first time. And then the second time, Cristiano Ronaldo with a ridiculous twice a back heel from Bruno, and then a goal by Ronaldo, and then Ronaldo out of nowhere gets a second goal to save them and give them a point, and put them in, and now they have to go and do some business against Villarreal and the Young Boys again to get through. And then, of course, the game against Man City, the derby. That should have been worse.
It really should have.
David De Gea saved their asses. Like, literally. I don't know how many times.
Literally.
And it's a little bit his fault on that second goal. But Luke Shaw's also not paying attention. And, he gets beat on that near post. You never get beat in your near post. But again, Luke Shaw, I think, is at fault for some of that as well. That first goal, I think that just tells you the defense in general. I mean, look, I know Bailly hasn't played very much. It's not his. But like nobody went after that cross. And I don't know what's going on with Harry Maguire, but he looks like he's frightened, absolutely frightened to do anything.
I don't know if because it's like too much. I would hope that it's not the captaincy getting to him, but it's just he's scared. And these are the moments in our defense to where at the worst possible times, it's like we randomly just fall asleep.
Yeah, but you know what? You know what? That's on the manager too. Like it's just on the players, right? They should go out there and have more, gumption to go for it. But it's like they have kept a clean sheet in like 14 games now. It's like, what gives? Right? You have a great goalkeeper. You supposedly have this, obviously Varane got hurt.
Yeah.
And you were trying to do that thing with three at the back with Bailly along with Lindelof and Maguire, and it didn't work because they don't know who's supposed to step and who's not.
No, you're throwing this at a three at the back formation out of just about nowhere. And
yeah, because it worked one time against Tottenham, so we're gonna keep doing it. It's like,
but no. Tottenham.
Right, but there's a reason why Tottenham had to go get another coach that we'll talk about in a second. But it's like you gotta have. This is where it's a problem with Ole, right? He just does one thing, it works, and then it's like, oh, we're gonna keep doing it. It's like that's not the same as say, oh, I want to start the same back line because of consistency, or okay,
and then I can go ahead and I make adaptations. Maybe against these matchups, I don't start this midfield pairing. I tweak and maybe have more support around the back three, and it's not necessarily midfield four. I change the strike partnership. It's just,
yeah. That thing with Fred and McTominay is starting to like wear thin with me, where they just both of them are not helping.
No, what are they doing out there?
Yeah, seriously. Every time all I see is Fred get beat by someone. McTominay makes a bad pass, and then up front it's like Ronaldo and everybody else just like Bruno's giving him opportunities, right? But it's just I don't know if it's Ole, right? Ole is not able to make that team be cohesive, and work together. It's again the same thing. What happened against Atalanta? Moments of brilliance.
Yep.
What happened against Man City? There were no moments of brilliance because for like the first 20 minutes they couldn't get out of their own end.
No, you can't have a talismanic player like Ronaldo or even Edison Cavani when he's available and healthy up there. You can't rely on those two, especially Ronaldo, to paper over a whole bunch of cracks.
No, and they got cracks everywhere. It's like every time there's a situation, it's like, let's just throw everybody onto the field now. Like, oh, let's throw Sancho and let's throw Van de Beek and it's like there's not a plan. There's not this person actually comes in here and like unlocks this part of it. And it's like like Pep just absolutely went and like didn't have to even do a whole lot. He didn't make one change, Eric. He didn't make one sub because
If you're Pep, you're one of the master tacticians. You can even make a 4-4-2 just work like a total
he did
exotic
make
dream.
4-4-2 work. It's like,
And again, it's just like, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this basic thing. I am just gonna make all kinds of exotic
he
stuff.
doesn't.
All
Okay,
of that.
this is what's so crazy is Pep is so good. He doesn't
Yeah.
have a striker. He doesn't have a number 9, and they go and win games. I mean, like they lost to Crystal Palace, but he's so good that he has, of course, helps that you have this great talent.
Yeah, you have like a great talent and about $1 billion payroll, but hey, you gotta have something to make it work if you don't have every single piece.
But here's the difference that shows you everything. Look at the $1 billion payroll that PSG has, and look at how that team is working now. Granted,
I concede that.
And then look at the way Man City plays with Pep. It's all about the coach.
Completely agree. You have to have someone who, again, if you don't have all the perfect pieces, it's like, you know what? Here's what I've got with all of this. Here's where I'm getting my best talent and best spots. I'm going to make this work. Fitting the system to those players. Say, okay, it's not always going to be 100%, but most of the time, I'm going to be able to get it right.
No, it's just frustrating from all points of view that if you're the Glazers, I get it. You just gave Oli a 3-year contract, and you want to see some of that through, and you don't want to go and try to find somebody. And now because Tottenham went and got Antonio Conte, do you have anyone that you can go and get has a name?
There's been talks. I have heard Zidane has made a U-turn and saying, I might take that United job if it's available. I've heard a couple of German coaches. But honestly, for the Glazers, and this is the big difference in perspective as well, when you see a team that is making money, and that's, you have to admit, a huge chunk of what this is about for the Glazers is making money. You figure, as long as you're qualifying for the Champions League, you're making that Champions League money. You don't need to change much.
Okay, but here's the problem.
They need to change that approach because just qualifying for the Champions League isn't enough.
But here's the problem, Eric. There's no guarantee right now that you're gonna. West Ham is playing out of their minds. To play like that an entire season is not a guarantee. But you think Tottenham is going to get better with Conte, right, as the manager.
Mm-hmm.
He's done that everywhere he goes. He makes the team better. If they're going to take a little bit of time to adjust, and he may have to play around in the January transfer window and get some players in and whatever. Go get some Italian players.
Gonna be hard with how little Tottenham has, but.
Right, but Daniel Levy will spend and he'll go and sell someone if he has to or whatever. If Conte is now that's the thing. I don't know how much Daniel Levy's gonna let Conte do whatever because Conte's one of those guys that says, I want this guy. I don't care how much money it is, I want that guy. Daniel Levy doesn't work like that.
No, that's just why I say it's like, all right, you want him, we're gonna have to in some cases sell to buy. You prepared for that.
Yeah, like we'll have to go sell like 2 players to go get this one guy that you want. You may have to go find somebody else. And does he have enough time in that 30 days to go make adjustments? But here's the thing, like maybe you go and make it out of that group by going and winning against Young Boys or whatever, or you go and get a draw against Villarreal again, or whatever.
Right.
But in the round 16, you're probably gonna get whooped.
Yep.
And like that's the thing is. It's not just West Ham playing out of their minds. It's Arsenal's playing pretty well, right? They're winning, or they're getting results.
They're supposed to do. So they've turned it on to help Arteta, and they've responded.
I mean, since that time where Arteta was under the gun, they have done nothing but just get results, right? And so, like, they're all the way up to 5th now, which is crazy to think of what happened at the beginning of the year, right? So, like. And then you've got, Leicester, who's still in there. They're in the mix, right? And they're always up for one. I mean, like, that's 3 teams right there that could easily be above you.
Yep.
And you're nowhere near
No.
near Champions League at that point. Not
No.
even Europa League. So, like, that's my problem with this is that there is no guarantee that you're going to get fourth or
And
third.
this is why the Glazers have to think it's like, okay, what this is now. And even with the mantra, oh, Ole has 3 matches. Ole has 3 matches. What
Well,
has
the
he
three
done?
matches happen. It's the same.
1, 1, and 1. Win, loss, draw. You got one of each. That is that any way you slice it, that is a middling team. That is a middling performance.
The problem is the Glazers are fine with them being middling as long as they get Champions League.
And then this is why I say they've got to change that approach because for the reasons that you just mentioned, there is no guarantee.
This year
mess around and finish 6th. Are you really going to pull the trigger?
Because you don't have time to mess around. Yeah, no. Like you said, right? Like you need to act soon. I would act now. I would take this summer break and be like, listen, there's nothing Ole's going to do that's going to make this team better.
No.
He can't sign anyone until January.
Nope.
So he's got to go with a team that he has.
Yep.
You saw the changes this guy's going to make. He's not going to have some revelation after this international break, and they're not going to go on some ridiculous run. They have played terrible at Old Trafford during his time there. I mean, he got saved by the fact that they went on that 29-game unbeaten run or whatever, or he probably would have been, out longer. It's like this happens every time, and they should know by now. Oh, like he starts winning some, and then he loses some, and it's like, are we going to keep going this way? I mean, it's just like, what else is it going to take? Like, okay, great. You get Watford when you come back from the break.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine. Was it Claudio Ranieri's been all right since then? But it's like, seriously, I mean, is that what we're like hoping for here? Okay, you got Chelsea and Arsenal right after that. After you get Watford and then Villarreal in the Champions League. That's 2 games you could lose again.
You're staring down the barrel at another stretch of maybe 1 win in 4.
And Crystal Palace has been playing really well. I mean, look at that. They just beat Man City. And they took it to – who did Crystal Palace play last week? But they got a result again.
So it's these London teams, I'm telling you. So yeah, 1 win in 4, 1 win in 5. That's unacceptable. That is unacceptable. If I'm on that board, I'm calling people like Zidane and these names now and saying, hey, do you really make a U-turn? If we can help you adjust the life in England.
They beat Wolves. But like that's still the point. Is Crystal Palace is playing really well. Brighton's playing really well as well. So like that's the thing is this league is better than you give it credit for. You're not going to be able to steamroll all these teams that are not Chelsea, Man City, and Liverpool to be able to make sure you get fourth. There's going to be teams that are going to give you a fight as you've already dealt with this season yourself, and then you're seeing them do it to these other teams, already. So it's like, again, outside of the Watford and Villarreal set, you get 2 really rough games after that. And you could be further down the table, like you said. Mm-hmm. And then what are you going to do? You're going to get to the point where you're so far down the table that it doesn't matter if Zidane or some German coach or whoever comes in. They're not going to be able to turn the team around, even with Ronaldo and Cavani and Bruno and everybody. Like, you're not going to be able to turn them around because they're too far gone. Like, make a change now when you still maybe have a shot at the title or whatever. It's like, do you not even care about winning the title anymore? It's like, come
No,
on, like that's
clearly they
terrible.
don't. They don't. We haven't
That's
won it since
awful.
Sir Alex retired.
It's Manchester United. Like, you should not be sitting there. This goes beyond the fandom or whatever of like
Of
us
course.
being supporters of Manchester United. It's like, this is a big. This would be like the Yankees saying, "Oh, we don't want to win the World Series." Forget that. Like,
You're
it's like,
talking about a team that's historically number one or top five, absolute worst, top 10 most valuable clubs across all sports on the planet.
it's just
Nothing.
it's embarrassing. That was an embarrassing game to watch because they had other outside of Ronaldo with that shot that went um right to the key to Ederson. They got nothing, Eric. Nothing going forward at all.
Mm-mm.
It's it was it's absolutely it was worse than Liverpool because at least Liverpool you felt like, oh, at some moment somebody will do something. Like, this was even more because De Gea was keeping them in the game. And then nobody could get
Nobody
anything
pushed and
going
helped.
at all. Nobody pushed. Nobody. There's 20 minutes to the game, and they're kind of like, all right, well, let's just make sure nobody scores. All right, let's make sure this looks good. Like, really? That's what we're worried about? Instead of pushing everybody freaking forward and trying to score? I mean, like, really? Oh, it's so frustrating as not just a fan. It's like, this is what Manchester United has become. Really? So you're gonna wait to get dismantled by Thomas Tuchel?
Yeah.
You're gonna wait to like probably lose to Arsenal? Like that's what you're gonna wait on? Like, no.
Looking at the Glazers mentality, yes. And they thought that it was bad with the Super League debacle and how the fans in Manchester reacted. God help them if things really go south.
Yeah,
Seriously.
it's just utter, like, at this point, take this time with the international break and really, please I don't care if they go and beat Watford 6-0 and they go and beat Villarreal 2-0. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, Watford's a team you should beat.
Yeah, you're
Number
again.
One. And Villarreal, they're at your level, fine for what you are right now. But it's like, still, you have done enough in the Champions League to where, okay, you should go and get a draw at Villarreal and then set yourself up for what you got to do against young boys at Old Trafford or whatever. It's like, the point is, do not go by the last result. Go by the breadth of what you've seen with this man.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great person.
Yeah, he's a great
legend.
person.
Like,
but he's, as a manager, in this situation, he's over his skis.
Exactly. He's over his skis. He's inept at what he needs to be able to take this team to the next level. And you need to go find that person, whether it's Zidane, whether it's somebody else. Take this freaking week and a half, 2 weeks.
Make calls.
Go
do something.
Find someone. Because it doesn't matter if you light a fire under his butt. He just is not the kind of guy that's going to all of a sudden have some come to Jesus moment. And it's like, oh, I figured out what I was doing wrong the whole time. Here it is. And then the team's going to magically be great. No, they're going to keep doing this thing where they win one, they lose one, they draw here. They like, come on, man. It's like, it's almost like he is sometimes like Greg Berhalter, where there's that one plan, except Greg Berhalter's got lucky a couple of times, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where Ole's gotten smacked in the face where, oh, crap, I messed up. Now I got to make the change. Oh, crap, that didn't work. Well, whatever. Here, like, Ronaldo's gone and saved his butt. Like, and it's like, how many times? Ronaldo's not going to do that every single time.
No. I mean, you look at that, you may lose him at the end of the season. You know you're going to lose
Exactly.
Cavani at the end of the season. He's looking to go back to South America. So then what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the point. Ronaldo doesn't want to stick around for the last 2 or 3 years that he has left and not win.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it is with your old legendary club or whatever. I mean, he can go back to Real Madrid and win. He can go back to, I don't know about Juventus, but he can go back to Sporting
Yeah,
and win,
Juventus, no. Or I
like,
mean, even go back to Portugal.
that's what I'm saying. Go back to
Yeah,
Sporting, go back to
yeah.
Real Madrid, or he can go to another team and win. Like, that's more set up for him. He can go to Man City, right? Like, you can just be like, you know
He
what?
almost did anyways.
I gave you a shot, Manchester United. You obviously don't give two craps about winning here. I'm going to go to the noisy neighbors and I'm going to win over there.
Oh,
You
and if
know,
that happens, riots, the scenes, the
riots.
scenes.
Yeah, riots. It better be riots at the Glazers' door.
Oh, of
That's what it
course.
better be, because you shouldn't be allowing the team. You go in, and that's the travesty of it all, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you go and spend all this. Look, they spent money. I'm not saying they don't spend money, right?
Yeah, they spend
But
money, but
you go in and do what you got to do to make sure the Buccaneers win the damn championship.
mm-hmm.
But come on, man, you're gonna go and oh, we don't. Well, we were making progress, but now we're not. And it's like, it just shows you that, like, your progress stopped.
Yes.
Your progress ain't gonna go higher than there, and that's it. Like, at some point, you ain't gonna get to where you need to go with Oli, and you need to. As much as Oli's a great person and he's a legend of the club and all that stuff, you need to move on and do it before the team gets to the point where nobody is going to come take them, because they're not going to go above like sixth or seventh or whatever, and they can't. What, we're going to pass the embarrassment of going to the freaking UEFA conference? Like, it's like, that's where you're headed at this point. You're going to join Roma and Tottenham and some other teams in the UEFA conference. Imagine that. Because you don't make this change fast enough. Let's end it there here, because we're probably going to go on for another 20 minutes. And,
Yeah, we easily could. We easily could.
Thank you for joining us here. Much longer show than usual, but we had a lot of stuff that happened in one show. So if you like what you heard, of course, you can always follow us on Twitter. I'm at WTimSean, Eric at Squid Sports Head for Eric. And, of course, go subscribe to the whole W2 network. You get everything we do. Of course, my video game show that I do with Mark, Video Games to the Max. Of course, you can also listen to that feed for the League to the Max. Of course, the League of Legends whole Worlds tournament that has just ended now. But I'm sure they will keep doing things there. And then, of course, Eric.
Oh yeah, we've got our plans for the rest of the month, and we're gonna have a thing. So stay tuned. Stay tuned.
That's cool. So we got Eric with that Life is Like a Game show. We got the kickoff as well, the NFL show. If you like the round ball, maybe you like that lemon shaped ball, or the whatever, the pigskin, and you go watch that or listen to that. And of course, you got Mark Rallis with all the other entertainment stuff that we do. The Eternals review will be there. All of that and other things that you like that are not sports related. Of course, they also cover boxing and wrestling too, if you like that stuff. So we got something for everyone here. And of course, Soccer to the Max. We will be back really fast, really soon on Friday. I got to work that day, so it'll be a late one for the Mexico US. Probably around this same time, covering the US and Mexico game. And then, of course, on Tuesday, that will probably be more around the time of the game finishes for the Jamaica game. We'll be back for that one. Of course, in between, we may or may not have a show on that Sunday. I'm not sure, but we will definitely be back. If not that Sunday, the following Sunday, we'll be talking about the MLS playoffs when that starts. So the whatever's been going on, the NWSL final at that point. That's why we may have a show, is because there is some stuff that will be going on that we can talk about for that Sunday show in between the two U.S. games. So we'll see. We may have a show Sunday, we may not, but definitely Friday we'll be here. Well, not Friday, probably more like Saturday morning for you guys. We'll be here for the Mexico U.S. game. Hopefully that's a game that we'll definitely want to be talking about and not some kind of blowout or whatever.
Oh, you'll be able to tell because I'll be live tweeting that one. so you'll know ahead of time.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be able to like watch the first 30 minutes of my break, and then I'll have to be kind of sneaking it here and there to watch the rest of it, and then have to listen to it on the way driving home. But yeah, until next time on Saturday morning for the U.S. Mexico, we'll see y'all later, everybody.
Peace.